There are a few things that really bother me, but I can definitely say that females becoming sex slaves tops that list, followed by ISIS activists being released to the public, followed by the West pandering to Al Qaeda terrorists, followed by the media not talking about this and informing us on what's really happening in the world. Those are just some of the things that I don't like. And if you don't like the media, then you've come to the right place, because today we're going to talk about a conflict that for some reason nobody feels like they need to be covering right now. Why? Young women being raped and sold into sex slavery by ISIS leadership trying to take over a massive location in the Middle East? Why wouldn't people want to talk about that? Well, because it doesn't really align with the agendas. Guys, I'm talking right now about Syria and the Kurds. And if you're wondering to yourself, what do you mean Syria and the Kurds? We're currently dealing with Iran. Well, surprise, surprise, all of these things are actually intertwined because the Islamic regime is currently helping ISIS in Syria. And yes, guys, I know, this is getting a little bit confusing, but don't worry, I'm here to break it down and hopefully explain it in a simple way so that you can stay up to date with what's going on. You will remember Assad, right? In Syria, he was that terrible, terrible dictator regime leader who was brought down last year by this guy called al-Jilani. You might be familiar with al-Jilani for two reasons. Number one, you might have seen videos of him in the White House, a man dressed in a suit looking very respectful, and you might have also seen a poster from the United States wishing for his capturing at the grand old price of $10 million for anybody who finds al-Jilani, the Al-Qaeda leader. You might also be familiar with him because of the famous picture of him holding up two heads that were separated from his body. This is now the guy who leads Syria, and the Western world has welcomed him in with open arms. I mean, he's actually in Damascus right now having a summit with other Western leaders. An ex-Al-Qaeda leader leads Syria right now, and that is legitimized. Now, when Assad fell down, the regime came down, everybody was very excited because Assad was genuinely one of the worst dictators of all time. And I'm not talking just about chemical poisonings of individuals. I'm just talking about the fact that this man was a terrible, terrible dictator. The thing is, what people forgot to mention is that whoever brought him down must be unbelievably capable. We know Assad's regime was really destabilized by everything that was going on with Israel and other things happening in the geopolitics, but the guy who brought him down was really, really, really bad and used force to do this. Now, here's the thing about Syria that a lot of people don't realize. Syria is probably the most complicated Middle East landscape because there are multiple different groups with different beliefs throughout the country. And to fight the regime, they all had to unify, but they all hate each other. I'm talking about ISIS and Al-Qaeda and many, many different other groups. We've got the Druze. You may remember back in the day when Israel intervened to try and help the Druze from being massacred by al-Jilani, who pretended that that wasn't the case. We've got the Kurds, who are an enormous group here in the Middle East. I think the estimates are between 20 to 50 million Kurds located in different places across Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, etc. Okay? Now, al-Jilani, pretending to be the wonderful leader that he is of a democratic state, pushing towards peace and normalization, potentially with Israel, and working for the Westerners, yada, 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 that's all lies, is actually trying to figure out how he can unify all of the people of Syria. And when I say unify, what I mean, he is looking to basically genocide anybody who disagrees with him until everybody's unified in a very wonderful way. Now, it started with the Druze, and that caused a lot of a hullabaloo because Israel intervened. Why did Israel intervene? Well, like the Kurds, who have Kurds in many different locations, the Druze are similar, and Israel has a very big Druze group of people that live here, and they asked of the Israeli government to help defend their brothers in Syria. So we did. And obviously, there's more complications to that. You can go check out previous episodes in which we've discussed this. However, the Druze were just the first group. Now, al-Jilani is going after the Kurds. You may be wondering to yourself, why should I care about the Kurds? Like, who are these people? I've never even really heard of them, and I don't understand why this has anything to do with me. Well, here's the very simple answer. The reason you need to care about them is because the Kurds are one of the only groups in the Middle East that truly believe in a Western democracy. They are a very peaceful nation, except for the fact that they are armed to the teeth. They defend themselves at all costs, and they are the people that successfully brought down ISIS back in the day. Do you remember when ISIS was a real global threat and how they've kind of moved out of the public sphere and discussion? That was due to the Kurds. America, the Western countries helped the Kurds, supported the Kurds, financed the Kurds to remove ISIS, and they did so very, very, very successfully. They got a lot of them imprisoned, etc. Except for the fact that al-Julani has now decided to open up the prison doors, release these ISIS terrorists to try and help eliminate the Kurds. And when I talk about eliminations of the Kurds in Syria, I'm talking about the worst that you can imagine. Classic radical Islam. Beheadings, rapes, murders, burnings, all the things that they love to do in their religion as they try and dominate themselves as the leadership. There's a big mistake that people think and believe in the West, which is that because the West values freedom and money, the truth is that most people in the world feel the same way, namely the Islamists. And if you just throw enough money at these crazy radical Islamists, they'll finally see the light and they will come over to our side. The truth is that that is not what's going on. Islamists believe in world domination. They believe in taking over. Now, as we know, they're the ones who call every other country under the sun colonizers, etc. But the truth is, that's what they are. And we now know that the more somebody blames somebody else for something, the more likely it is that's what they are themselves. They believe that it is their God-given right and obligation to take over the world from the infidels and Islamize it. We've discussed this to no ends. And that's what the Syrians are trying to do to fight against the Kurds, who they see as a threat because these people believe in democracy and freedom and all of the good things that we believe in. Right now, al-Julani is responsible for a proper massacre of the Kurds. They are killing them in the thousands, but more importantly, they are taking the females as sex slaves. Again, something that if you just look in their wonderful religious books, you will see as their belief of how you fight a war. That's currently happening in Syria. And again, the reason this matters to us is number one, because Western countries are still pandering to this al-Julani al-Qaeda leader as if he is a normal leader. Now, I totally understand this whole look, it's the Middle East, we don't really get it. Let's just put a nicer dictator in than a bad dictator and hope that he'll be our friends. But this guy is currently leading mass genocide against different denominations within his society so they can all be united under one Syria. His army are releasing ISIS terrorists into the public to go rape, behead, and do all the things that they like to do to young Kurdish females and to family members as a whole. Now, I want you to understand what I'm saying. Al-Julani is bringing ISIS back when the Kurds were the ones who put ISIS down. ISIS have a plan for world domination. And if you can't understand that Hamas are bad or Hezbollah are bad because you've been manipulated by the whole PR that the Muslim Brotherhood have done successfully, hopefully you don't feel that way about ISIS. And you understand that Al-Qaeda and ISIS are bad. This is what's going on right now in Syria. And you can only imagine that it gets worse. I'm not even going to talk about how Turkey's involved and Iran is involved as well. Because it is the IRGC that is going out there under this massive media blackout and also murdering tons of Kurds in Kurdistan, etc. Because as we said, the Kurds are located in many different areas and they're seen as a proper threat to the sovereignty of the dictators. The IRGC doesn't like them. The Syrian leadership doesn't like them because they are normal and good people, and that is a threat to Islamization. We're not even going to mention how Turkey, who pretends to be one of our countries, a westernized NATO country, is directly involved in helping the revitalization of ISIS. And again, the reasons for this are complicated and varied, and we will probably do a bigger episode on the Meira K show at JNS TV where we'll discuss this more in depth. But Turkey is, again, one of these countries that believes in mass Islamization and just pretends to be a good country. This is what's happening right now in non-Kurdistan, in Kurdistan as well, but in Syria, right on Israel's border. But more importantly, there is nothing being spoken about this. No one is saying a word, and I've had enough. I mean, I found this one video. I think this girl does a good job in kind of explaining a little bit of the context, so let's watch it. But you need to know about this, because if you know about what's happening in Iran and you know about other conflicts, you should understand why ISIS coming to power is a little bit problematic.
So you might have noticed that I'm almost always wearing this because I work very closely with the Kurds, and I also genuinely believe that a free and sovereign Kurdistan is essential for stability and safety and justice in the Middle East. The Kurds are one of the biggest indigenous groups here in the Middle East. Most academic sources claim that there are between 30 and 50 million Kurds in the world, but some Kurdish sources say that there's quite a lot more. Kurdistan is currently occupied by Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Turkey, but none of those countries actually treats their Kurds very well. And right now, as we speak, Kurds are being brutally attacked by the military forces of Julani's Syrian army and the IRGC. Per usual, Kurds are on the front line of fighting against the IRGC and the Ayatollah, and therefore are facing the brunt of the fascist brutality and oppression from the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Kurds are reporting that the majority of people killed in these demonstrations that have been going on for over a week now have been Kurdish. The IRGC basically started opening fire on crowds of people. Killing several innocent people, and now the Kurdish National Army is engaging with the IRGC, which is kind of a huge deal. And because everybody's always trying to whitewash the Kurds and erase them from their own stories, nobody is reporting it in any news anywhere. The other day, the IRGC surrounded a hospital in Ilam, which is a Kurdish majority area, and attacked the hospital with the intention of either killing or arresting any of the protesters who were wounded and went to seek help and asylum and shelter within the hospital, because that's supposed to be a protected civilian space. According to international law, that is, but Islamists don't care about international law. So the Kurdish National Army has now mobilized and is attempting to protect its people. And now, in order to prevent the world from seeing the human rights atrocities that they're committing and how much their people are trying to overthrow them, the Ayatollah and the IRGC have cut the internet for all of Iran and especially Kurdistan. There is a complete internet blackout. And now it seems as though there is a general strike. And because of that, the IRGC and the Ayatollah will likely step up their attacks.
IRGC shutting down internet. There is a blackout in whole of the Kurdistan, and they want to do a massacre. Our units are inside and they are fighting, but there will be a very big massacre. And if the world don't say anything, they will kill one by one of those people who they are right now in the streets. Tonight in Kermashan, they killed two brothers. They killed two boy from Khalkhani people or Yarsan people. Tonight is a war in Kermashan, in Loristan, in Abdanan, in Ilam, in Sinadij, in all of it.
Meanwhile, in Syrian-occupied Kurdistan, everybody's favorite psychopath in a suit, Mr. Genocide Julani, is now initiating a genocide campaign against the Kurds in Syria. As soon as he seized power, he committed genocide against the Alawites, and then the Druze, and also the Kurds, and now the Kurds again. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Genocide Julani, he basically was an ISIS and Al-Qaeda commander who was known for his sadistic brutality. And because it's pretty easy to manipulate the West if you pretend that you're interested in business deals, he got himself a suit and a beard trim and has been going around on some diplomatic tour shaking hands with all of the major Western world leaders, trying to convince them that he's no longer a genocidal terrorist who likes beheading children, and instead is a legitimate world leader. Only a few days ago, he was at the White House spritzing perfume with Donald Trump. Meanwhile, his army, which is mainly ISIS and Al-Qaeda fighters and Chechnyan and Dagestani Islamist rebels, are currently attacking Kurdish majority areas in Aleppo, kidnapping and raping women. Indiscriminately shooting into civilian homes. and committing war crime after war crime after war crime. This is happening as we speak. And obviously, yet again, the world is silent. But Kurds know that even if the world is erasing what is happening to you and refusing to see what you're going through, we here in Israel, we do see you. BG Kurdistan.
See, I get mad. I get mad when I see videos of women being treated that way, and I get mad when I see innocent people being shot at by terrorists and nobody says anything and nobody does anything about it. It makes me mad, and it should make you mad too. And so that's where we are right now. We have crazy stories in Iran, crazy stories in Syria, geopolitics which are kind of out of whack right now. And as always, we'll be covering it all here on The Pushback. Thank you for your attention to this matter and for being here with us today. If you're watching this, we have just hit 100,000 followers, and it's because of people like you. I appreciate you tremendously, and hopefully we'll have good news soon.